So do you have to go back? Because I know some Canadians, so you don't have to go back since
Nope.
you're dual.
I am a full American
blown.
tax-paying citizen and also Canadian tax-paying citizen. A lot of taxes for me.
Do you want to kick this one off? You want me to?
We are already kicked off, but go ahead.
Well, I mean, we need to start it
Yeah,
officially.
start it.
Welcome, everyone, to the Outsider Podcast. Today on our show, we have Canadian country music royalty,
Oh, wow.
Meghan Patrick.
Okay.
Also American.
Yeah, we just talked about it.
Yeah, we
also,
just talked
I
Megan.
just read it this morning. It sounded really good. I stole it. So way to just go ahead and put my opener right in the dirt.
So you have to pay taxes in both?
Yeah, man, it's a lot. Yeah.
Even if you don't work up there?
Well, I do work. That's part of
Okay,
it. Is
so-
I do
So
still
you have
make
to pay taxes on money you make up there?
Yeah,
and then pay
it's kind of complicated, but in a nutshell, yes, because I still tour quite a bit in Canada and always will. And my career is further down the road there than
Sure.
what I have going on here as of now. So I still make a lot of my touring income in Canada.
So if you do a gig in Florida, do you have to pay Florida taxes?
Yeah, I have a business manager also that
Sure. Handles that.
that handles the details of that, but
Because the
far as I know, he's getting
NFL
paid.
screws you. You have to pay taxes in wherever the game's at.
yeah, I'm not sure exactly how that works, and
Me either.
Randy, my manager's giving me a thumbs up. I'm like, listen, I didn't know we were here to talk. I was told there'd be no math or numbers, so you guys want to talk about
We got tax
killing
season here
turkeys or
about-
deer or country music? I got you, but
So you grew up in Canada. Whereabouts?
Southern Ontario, so a place called Bowmanville, and it's about an hour-ish outside of Toronto, on Lake Ontario.
Brothers, sisters?
I have a little sister, Kate.
Nice. I know you really know hunting and fishing. Did you grow up hunting and fishing? Or when did you start?
No, I actually didn't get into it until I was in my, I guess, mid-20s. I definitely grew up being very sporty and outdoorsy, but I didn't have anybody in my family that really was into hunting. I did some fishing and stuff since I was little because my dad, he builds boats. We spent a lot of time on the water for sure. But just a lot of the guys that I grew up with and that I was friends with, I went over to my buddy Russ's house one time and he was just smoking a bunch of meat and I had never had any wild game before. And he was just like, here, try this. And I was like, what is this? This is amazing.
Yeah.
He's like, well, that's venison and that's duck breast. And I was like, so you just went and just shot this yourself? And he was like, yeah. I was like, well, that's sick. I'm like, I want to do that. And so I was like, well, if I get, my license, will you take
Sure.
me out and show me the ropes? And so yeah, shout out to my buddy Russ for taking me out. My first hunt was a turkey hunt. We did not see anything,
Ugh.
but
You hear anything?
nothing
Yeah.
at all. But
It's the worst.
But I still just honestly, the experience of it was so cool to me.
Yeah.
And I remember it was after we left that hunt that morning, and Russ was like, "Man," he's like, "I hate that we didn't." He's like, "Are you over it? Do you want to go back?" I was like, "No. When can we go again?" He's like, "Tomorrow." I was like, "Let's go." And so I think for me, yes, I love when the hunt is successful, but I just tapped into something else that was so necessary to my being, which was just being able to be in the woods. There was something incredible about watching the world wake up around you and nobody really knows where you are and it's quiet and it's awesome. And so, I love that element of it, and it's become pretty crucial to my mental health in more recent years, especially.
I could not agree more. I think the best part of the day is sitting in a tree stand while you're hunting, is sitting in a tree stand and just watching the woods wake up and everything come alive around you. Then you're beating the animals because you're there before them and so on and so forth. I think that's the most therapeutic thing in the world.
And I think also as someone who just generally at their core is very concerned with always being able to provide for myself. I love the fact that I'm if things if shit hits the fan, I can go out into the wilderness and I will thrive. And so I think, and especially in the last couple of years, things have gotten weird a few times, and it's well, if I have to, I can just get out in the woods and I'll figure it out. I'll be good to go.
Have you elk hunted yet?
I have not. That is definitely on my bucket list. Yeah.
So I know what he's getting into. If you like turkey hunting, you're going to love elk hunting because I just started turkey hunting
can chase them
with him, and I didn't know, how how much interaction between you and the animals there is when you're turkey hunting. And I'm just walking around. He's calling, we're walking around chasing him, and it was great. He's like, man, if you love this, you're gonna love elk hunting.
Yeah. That's what I've heard. Well, and I love the idea of like getting out there and like backpacking and hiking and like really just like not just like I left my truck this morning and walked 10 minutes to the stand, you know. So that is definitely on my bucket list. It's just finding the time, and that and moose as well. Those are like my two big game.
I went on a moose hunt in Maine last year.
Yeah.
And bought a tag, super expensive. We were out there for 6 days. We filmed the entire thing. I bet we walked 60, 70 miles and never saw one moose.
That sounds like my turkey hunt in Oklahoma last year. We walked so much. Yeah. It was insane. And I was like, y'all got no service and no turkeys in the state of Oklahoma anywhere.
If I don't hear the turkeys like in the morning, like I'm not messing around that much. Like I just call it a day.
You just call it. See, I'm so stubborn. I'm like, and I'm also such a like an optimist too, where I'm always like, but what if I leave and they're right there? Well, and I think also because
the next hill that we'll hear
right.
one.
Well, and I think also because like my schedule has gotten so crazy with work that like I get so little time to hunt.
Maximize that day.
If I'm going, I am going to be there from sunup to sundown.
Sure.
I don't care, and like and that's just me. But again, it's like I also look at it too, where I'm like, well, what else am I going to do? Especially if I travel somewhere to go hunt. Well, what am I going to go do? Sit at the lodge and like scroll TikTok? Like I'd rather just sit out here anyway, and maybe something will happen. And like you said too, I love that was one of the things that made me really fall in love with turkey hunting was the fact that you can chase them and you can go looking for them, that you can interact with them, you know. And I still like deer hunting, but like turkey hunting and duck hunting have my heart truly because of that interaction, the excitement of it, and just like I don't know, I just because I'm such a person, it's like, well, there's always something to be done, you know. Whereas deer hunting is like, no, you really just need to sit your ass in the stand and be patient, which is two things that I'm not good at doing.
And be bored.
Yeah.
And it's just out of I mean, we deer hunt a lot, and I mean, my farm manager, he goes to a lot of effort to put deer in front of us, but it just gets so old sometimes. I mean, it's just like sitting there. I'm just like, gosh, this is such a waste.
I'm in the same boat as you because when I grew up hunting, but I also
it's chance. Deer hunting's chance too. Like they just have to be like walking past you.
There's only so much you can do to set yourself up for success with deer, for sure.
But during the rut, I mean, it's
I mean that's fine.
That's true.
Yeah, but I mean, turkey hunting and elk hunting, like you can do something. Like if you see an elk, like, you know, a couple ranges over, you can be like, all right, let's make a plan. Let's get our asses over there, you know, play the wind. Let's call them and give yourself a shot. Where like deer hunting, you're just sitting there.
You're just waiting and hoping.
It doesn't bother me.
Dude, I respect it. I just don't have the patience, which is also why I do enjoy deer hunting at the same time, because I'm like, this is something I should work on is my patience. This is probably good for me to do this.
I'm not good.
But
I just have Luke look at the camera. I'm like, if they're showing up, I'm coming. If they're not showing up, I'm not coming.
Yeah. Well, we definitely, Mitchell and I just bought a new place.
Where?
And just almost Pegram, like outskirts of Bellevue.
Okay.
And we got 10 acres, and I've seen a ton of deer out there, so I'm pretty excited.
Yeah,
that's living the dream.
I was just out there last week. We bought a little baby pig.
You did?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Are you gonna eat it eventually?
How'd that go, Jay?
We shouldn't talk about it.
Don't name it.
I don't think the pig's with us anymore.
We didn't even get far enough to name it. So it was just called Pig.
Okay. Nice.
So did you always interested in music? Did you play music as a kid? Did you have lessons?
Yeah. I mean, I always say like music was kind of always a part of my life. Just both my parents. My dad plays guitar, never professionally, but just more as like a hobby. And I just grew up in a house where we just always had music playing. Like we didn't really watch a lot of TV, and like it was just music on all the time. And you know, I think I was 12. I think I was in like 6th grade, and I auditioned for the school musical because I was Little Miss Do Everything, you know. And I was like, oh, I can do this. I'm like pretty good at this. And a teacher had had said, if this is something you're interested in, I can recommend some teachers if you want to take some singing lessons. So I did start taking singing lessons, which turned into me studying opera, which was...
You studied opera?
Yeah. It was just one of those things, I guess. I don't know, the teacher that I had at the time, I had a big voice, a powerful voice. I had a lot of range. And so she just kind of got me. So in like...
How old were you?
I was like 12.
Okay.
And so there are like these grades, these levels that you can study for the Royal Conservatory, and you learn theory and all these different things. And so I kind of started studying that, and I definitely liked the challenge of it. And at the time, it was cool too, because it was kind of showing me what my voice could do, and like learning about my voice. And then I got in my first band. We were called the Sirens. We were all an all-girl band, and listen, we were pretty awesome. We made a record.
Really?
We wrote a couple songs. We made a record, and we used to have like assembly gigs. So like we would literally have like our moms drive us to another school, and we would load into another like a middle school's assembly with like
auditorium.
kick drum, hi-hat and a snare, a guitar and a guitar amp, and a vocal mic, and we would play gigs
What
for
type of music?
assembly. I mean, it was kind of like, I guess, like alternative rock. We a lot of No Doubt covers.
Oh, okay. So we had a little grunge to us.
Oh yeah, for
Okay.
sure. I wanted to be Gwen Stefani desperately.
I
yes.
loved No Doubt. Why'd they break up?
I'm just a girl.
She just went
She
solo?
she just had other stuff she was trying to do because she's a badass, I guess. But yeah, and then so there's kind of two stories. There was two things that were consuming me through like kind of middle school and high school, and one of them was music and the other was snowboarding. So I was a competitive snowboarder, and I got to a point where that was the big dream for
When
the
did you start
longest time.
snowboarding? Early on?
I mean, I had been in skis since I could walk,
Gotcha.
and then I think I put on a snowboard when probably around the same age, like 12 or 13 maybe. And one of my best friends growing up, Matt, he was like, yeah, I think I'm going to start competing. And he's like, you should do it with me, because we would ride together every weekend. And so now in Ontario, we didn't exactly have mountains to speak of. So not like the best situation, but so I got into racing because we didn't really have big parks or big mountains or anything, but started doing like giant slalom and slalom racing, a little bit of border cross, a little bit of freestyle here and there. And
Was X Games a big thing then? It was going on, right? Yeah.
oh yeah. And so yeah, that kind of like took off, and I ended up competing pretty seriously, and I got to the end of high school, and the dream at that point was go to the Olympics.
Yeah.
And my parents wanted me to go to university, and so we made a deal that if I qualified for the national development team by the end of my senior year, they were cool with me,
Chasing that.
And senior year of high school, I was warming up at a competition. I went into a jump way too aggressively, which tracks for who I was at that time. And it just kind of shot me straight up. It caught me off guard, and so shot me straight up, and I kind of went back. And so when I went to rotate, I basically overcorrected. If this is my head, this is my board. I went like this and landed like this. And so I snapped my collarbone, dislocated my shoulder, severe concussion, severe compression fracture all down my lower vertebrae. Like I should have been paralyzed, honestly.
Really?
Really, really scary. Probably, I think a lot scarier for everyone who saw it happen, because I don't actually really remember that day. I remember being in the air and being like, oh, this is going to be really bad. And then I don't remember going to the hospital. I don't remember anything else from that day.
Surgery on your collarbone?
I don't know. No surgery,
Okay, that's
thankfully.
good. Yeah.
It was just a lot of resetting of bones and braces and stuff like that. And that was a pretty lengthy recovery. And I was extremely depressed. One, because I just watched you're an athlete. You know how quickly it can get taken away from you, and what that feels like.
Especially at such a young age.
Yeah.
When you're just kind of getting started. And
Exactly. I
hopes
was
and
having the best
dreams.
season of my life. I was like a month away. I was supposed to go to Junior Worlds in Switzerland. I was going to freaking Switzerland for
So
the first
excited,
time.
yeah.
And so yeah, it just felt like all my dreams got ripped away. And then on top of that, I couldn't even go to school for the longest time. So it's like, am I going to be able to graduate on time with like the rest of my class? And what am I going to do?
We bedridden for a while.
Yeah. I because of my back, especially, like it was just I just couldn't really get up and move a lot, and I had this brace, and it was awful. I had these migraines. The concussion that I had was really brutal, and like I did not like the painkillers they gave me, so I just didn't take them. So it was just a lot of like suffering, and yeah, I was really depressed, and I turned to music a lot during that time because it was one of the only things I could do was, write lyrics or listen to music or whatever. And so when I came out on the other side of that recovery and I had to kind of readjust my plans for my future, I was like, okay, well, maybe I guess I'm going to go study music, because that was the only other thing I knew that I loved as much as snowboarding. And so I got accepted at McGill University, which is a really great music school in Canada.
Where was that
at? It's in Montreal.
Okay.
And I did 1 year of studying opera to realize this is not for me. And so, yeah, it kind of, school was...
Opera seems just very stuffy.
Either you love it or you don't. Yeah, I'm glad I studied it, because there's a lot there in terms of just learning good technique, and I think a lot of the power and control in my voice comes from that training. So I'm glad I did it.
Refined it a little bit.
But yeah, like as a genre, I was not really like passionate about singing opera. It was just kind of like, oh, it's cool that my voice can do this, you know? But I'm glad I went, because I met a lot of amazing musicians in Montreal. I got into another band at that time. We were called the New Groove Orchestra, and we were a 10-piece like Tower of Power kind of funk band, funk soul kind of thing. And so I switched out of the opera program to study jazz for a little bit, which was like cool. It was like I definitely was into it more than I was into opera, but like still. You
hit a lot of different music genres from the age of 12 to 18.
Yeah, I just love music, and I kind of wanted to explore it all.
Yeah.
Like there was value in all of it, and I learned something from all of it. And I was drawn to different aspects of it.
Were you still writing songs at this time?
Yep. Yeah. So that was kind of really like where I really started digging more into the songwriting aspect of things. And then even more so, I went home. I want to say it was like after my second or third year, I went and lived back home in Bowmanville for the summer. And so I started doing this open mic thing. And I met this guy, Sam, and we started just kind of playing music together, writing songs together.
Not me.
Another Sam.
I knew it wasn't you.
And that turned into another band called the Stone Sparrows, and so that was like kind of a bluegrass thing.
Gosh.
And so that was like, and that was also what led me to eventually drop out of school, because I got to a point where I was in school full time. I was also working part time, and then I was playing gigs on the weekends.
So you're still in university?
Yeah.
But we quit the opera. Mm-hmm. And now you're just studying
I'm studying jazz at this point.
Okay, studying jazz.
Yeah. And then I ended up transferring to Humber College in Toronto, because I thought maybe there was a program closer to what I wanted to do. What I really wanted to do was not be in school at all, to be honest. But I was still trying.
None of us wanted to be in school.
Yeah, I was still really trying to be the good daughter.
Yep. Make your parents happy.
Make my parents happy,
Mm-hmm.
but then at that point, we started touring a bunch. We did a whole summer tour, and I remember we did this tour all of the East Coast in Canada. And I was just like, this is it. Mm-hmm. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to write songs, and I want to be on the road singing them. And so I finally worked up the courage to tell my parents I was dropping out. And
how'd that go?
Sam, how did it go when you told your parents you're dropping out?
Oh, the cops told them the first time.
Okay, well, there were no police involved.
Took a little pressure off me. But I heard it pretty well.
Since you guys can handle it with my parents, I'm good.
Wow. No, there were no police involved. No, honestly, I called my dad, and I just told him, I was like, Dad, like after this summer, I'm like, my band is doing really well, and like I can't really sustain. I have to work, and I'm trying to do this full time with this band, and I'm in school, and this is what I want to do. I don't need a degree to chase this dream.
Do you have to pay for university in Canada?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, no, and that's why,
But most of the universities,
understandably,
like they put you on a track for like something, right? It's not like just Georgia, or you can't just you just don't go to school and just party for 4 years. Or you can?
Some definitely
Some
do. Yeah. I did my fair share as well.
Perfect.
But yeah, I told my dad, and honestly, I think he took it very well. I mean,
were you scared to tell your mom or dad? Both?
My mom, for sure. Yeah. No, my dad was always kind of like, he was very, very cool, calm, collected kind of guy. And as long as I could present like a rational explanation and plan for what I was gonna do, like
you weren't just gonna be a bum for you. Yeah. You had something else you.
My dad knew me well enough to I don't do anything half-assed, and that's basically what he said. He was like, okay, well, he's like.
He was probably just waiting on the call.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, he kind of always knew where I was at before I ever worked up the courage to tell him. And I was like, honestly, Dad, I'm like, this is what I want to do. I believe that I can do it. I think that I'm good enough at it. And I just need to focus all my time into this. And he was just kind of like, okay, well, two things. Like, if you're going to do it, don't half-ass it. And also, I'm not giving you money anymore.
Cut off.
So, but I mean, truly, that was a blessing. I'm so glad he did that because I had to work my ass off. I did not have something to fall back on. And honestly, even if he would have been willing to give me money, I didn't want it. I was way too proud and way too stubborn. I mean, that was the beginning of me learning that I could just take my guitar and go sit on a sidewalk and play songs for a couple hours and people would just give me money.
Make some money. Yeah.
So I started busking. Like, I would go sit in a Subway or on a street corner and busk for money before I'd be like, hey, Dad, I have no money for food. Yeah. But it also, like, it improved my chops as a guitar player, as a performer. You know, and I just did gigs as much as I could, and I
still
really
in Canada still.
Okay. Yeah, and I really went all in on it, and I spent a few years being just very, very broke.
What was your genre of music when you first started?
So at the time when I dropped out, I was still in my bluegrass band, and then fast forward, so Sam and I were also together in a relationship while we were in this band. Okay. And then we broke up and decided that we were adults. And so, of course, we could still have our band after we broke up.
Probably not.
And I would 10 out of 10 not recommend ever doing that. But we still did it. You know, it was fine. Whatever. We did it for a year just to prove that we could, I guess.
Sure.
But it wasn't great.
A lot of tension there.
Yeah, it wasn't great. But no, I love Sam and I love all those guys. Like, there's no bad blood there at all. Everybody they all had other things and other interests, and I didn't. That was it for me. And so
you had no plan B.
I had no plan B, and they did.
Which is great because all your time and energy goes into plan A. Right?
I love it. Burn the ships, go all in.
I do not believe that you can or will make it in this industry if you have a plan B. Yeah. I strongly believe that is number one, is you have to be willing to put everything into it, or it's just not going to happen because there's 100 other people behind you that are willing to not have a plan B.
Yeah. I think that just goes for life, for any business, anything of life. I never have a plan B. I think they're for cowards.
I agree. I could not agree more. And so that was when that happened. We went our separate ways, and that's when it really was like, what am I doing? Who the hell am I?
How old were you at this point?
I would have been, I guess I was like 25, 26-ish. Yeah. Because I signed my first record deal when I was 27, I believe.
In Canada?
In Canada. Okay. And so there was a few years. So after we broke up, there was a couple years of me trying to figure out, okay, for the first time in my life, I'm just Meghan Patrick. I'm not in a band. I'd always been in bands. Yeah. I had never been Meghan Patrick's solo artist. And so I started writing songs by myself. And that's when I kind of realized, I'm like, well, these are just country songs. Yeah. I wasn't really trying to make them that, but that's just
Did writing come easy to you, or was it a struggle?
Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, I was always inspired to write lyrics for sure, but that was when, coming into the music aspect of it. And I will say that's why I have so much love and respect for Sam and the Stone Sparrow guys, because that was when I really started digging into songwriting. And he was a great songwriter, great guitar player. And I was like, when he met me, I could put a few chords together on a guitar. I was not a guitar player by any means, but he really challenged me. He would write these songs that he knew were above my skill set, but he also knew I was way too proud to admit that, and that I would just go sit down until my fingers bled until I could figure it out. And so, I became a much more self-sufficient guitar player to where by the time I was trying to figure out who I was as Meghan Patrick, I could sit down with my guitar and write songs. And I did struggle because it was like I had loved so many styles of music, and I had written in bands and always been, looking to the other people to create together. I had never done it on my own. So it was a lot of struggle. Like, is this me? I don't know. Do I like this? Do I not like this? What do I have to say? Who is Meghan Patrick? And really learning that. And I finally, after a few years, I caught a break. I ended up at the offices at Warner Music in Canada and got my first publishing deal, my first record deal. And so one of my tattoos, I get asked about this one a lot. So $2.83, that's how much money I had in my bank account the day I signed my record deal.
Wow. Good for you.
And I had this old truck. Technically it wasn't the first car I drove, but it was the first car that I bought myself. That was entirely my own. Bought it for $2,000. And it was a 1998 GMC Sierra, old 2500 diesel. It was so loud and such a piece of crap, but I loved that truck so much. Like, I was so proud of this truck. And my dad, I'd been having a lot of issues with it, and I clearly had no money to fix it. And my dad had said the day I was signing my record deal, he's like, well, why don't you just take my truck? I was like, I can't, Dad. I was like, me and this truck have been through everything together. Like, I have to drive my truck into the city. And I was like, however, I will take like $20 for gas.
Need some gas money.
But I will take that. And so I remember I was driving into the city, and I was just like on cloud nine. I'm like, it's happening. Like, I am signing a freaking record deal. Like, somebody finally saw me and recognized what I'm doing. And I get into the parking lot, and I'm starting to get kind of nervous, and I pull into the parking spot. I'm like almost fully in the parking spot, and the truck just dies.
Had enough.
Just says,
got you far enough.
This is where I leave you. And so it was a good time to come into some money. And my dad convinced me it was time to buy a new truck.
Yeah.
And but my dad, he made me a deal because I was not ready to let go of this truck. I still loved it so much. He's like, look, he's like, if you give it to me, he's like, I'll get it fixed up. I'll use it as a work truck. You can drive it whenever you want. And so for years, my dad kept it at work. And after I moved to Nashville, anytime I came home, I would get in that truck, and I'd get to relive our glory days, hit all the old back roads, until the last time I drove that truck, and I was driving down like Main Street in Bowmanville, and the tailgate fell off. So that was about when we were like, well, maybe it's time to retire the old girl. So
when you write songs, do you write the music itself first or the lyrics first?
I am generally a lyrics first person. Like, I'm always thinking of like hooks and titles and concepts and writing stuff down in my phone. And so generally, because I love a good story song, and a lot of the songs I write are that way. So that usually comes first for me. But every once in a while, like, that being said, sometimes I'll hear something in my head musically, and I have a lot of embarrassing like voice notes on my phone that I'll never show anybody. I mean, just like, or me like in bed trying to be really quiet, like, Mitchell's snoring next to me. It's like
he doesn't snore, no way.
Oh my gosh, don't. Yes, he does. I have
CPAP
so
machine.
much proof of it. And he's like, I know. He's like, I have my tonsils and my adenoids removed. I don't snore. I'm like, you do, and I have proof.
So what year did you come to Nashville?
So it was 7 years ago now, almost 7 years ago. Yeah, actually 7 years ago now.
So you stayed in Canada for a while after that first deal.
Yeah, so when I first signed my record deal, I had been thinking about, I had started to go down to Nashville. I had started to do writing trips down here, and I wanted to move here. That was kind of always
the goal.
Okay. And at that point, and I had my dual citizenship and everything. My mother's American, so I was able to get that.
It was easy to come back and forth.
I could do it at any time.
Sure.
It was an easy thing to do, but I ended up, and we did talk to some labels down here, and there weren't any labels that were ready to sign me, because this was also during the era of like, well, we have a girl on our roster, so we just don't really have room for any more. We're going to sign 10 other guys named Chase from Georgia that are 23 years old, but we don't have room for any more girls.
So who were the girls then? I guess Carrie was probably maybe coming up then.
I'm trying to think. Well, I think Ray Lynn was had just
okay.
signed at Warner around that time. But I mean, there
weren't a lot.
There weren't a lot.
No.
We were in the thick of, Tomato Gate or whatever. And so I want, as much as I wanted to move down to Nashville, I was like, okay, well, I have a record deal, a great offer here in Canada with a major label, and so it just made sense for me to stay there. I'm like, I'm gonna put a pin in the Nashville move for now, and just really put all my focus on touring in Canada and building a career here where I have the support. So that's exactly what I did for a couple years. And after those few years, it just kind of got to the point where if I wasn't on the road touring, I was in Nashville writing. Okay. And every time I tried to go back home, it was like I felt like I was trying to be two different people, and it wasn't like I wasn't still the girl that everybody grew up with. I was, but I was also growing into something else and finding this whole new side of myself and my creativity and what like my calling was, so to speak. And so I was finding it difficult to come back home and try and fit back into my old life and still be productive and be writing and being inspired the way I was all the time when I was in Nashville. And so, I also was just getting out of a relationship. So it was kind of like, everything was lining up to like, there's nothing left for you here anymore. Mm-hmm. And so I was on tour actually with Tom Cochran at the time, which was kind of a random pairing, but really? And it was my first like big arena tour. Yeah. And I just remember thinking, I was like talking to my guitar player, Ollie, and I was like, I got to find a new place to live when I get home. And then I kind of was like, why would I stay here actually? And I just decided while I was on the road, I was like, I'm going to move to Nashville when I get home. And so I got home, and I think, 48 hours later, packed up my truck and a U-Haul trailer and drove 14 hours down to Nashville with my guitar player, Ollie. And I just remember like, I really did not know anybody. I sort of knew the girl that I was moving in with, only in that she was Canadian, and we had met a couple times in Nashville, and I had hit her up because I was like, hey, where's some good areas to move in Nashville? Yeah. I think I'm going to move. And she's like, well, actually, I'm looking for a roommate.
So again, no plan B here.
Yeah, no plan B. I was just like, I was just totally trusting. She's like, I'm looking for a roommate. And she's like, I can find us a place and you can just come down here. So I was moving down to be with someone that I didn't really know that well, in a home I had never laid eyes on. And I remember just like praying like, God, I don't know what I'm doing, but I just have this feeling that I need to do this. And I just hope when I get there, you can just give me a sign that this is what I need to be doing. Mm-hmm. And literally the first day that I was there, like that, we had driven 14 hours, me and my buddy Ollie, and I was like, let's just go somewhere and get a beer. It's been a long day. Yeah. And I remember I had started following this girl, Casey Tyndall, on social media. We had never met, but she just seemed cool. She liked to hunt. She was a country singer. I liked her music. I was like, I would hang out with this girl. And we had, interacted online, but never met. And so we go to, I believe it was Basement East, and we're waiting in line. It turned out there was some live music, so we're waiting to go in. And all of a sudden I hear from behind me, oh my God, Meghan Patrick. And I turn and I'm like, who knows me here? Yeah. She's like, hey, it's me, Casey Tyndall from North Carolina. And I was like, what's up? She's like, what are you doing here? I thought you lived in Canada. Yeah. And so we start talking. She's like, you got to meet my roommate, Lainey. Like, you're like a real country girl. She's redneck. You're redneck. Well, you need to just come hang out with us. You need to come out of the house. And she's like, and you're Canadian, so you like hockey, right? So we can watch hockey together. And she's just like this little spitfire that she's like, and it was so cool because there was no motive there. She just was genuinely like, you seem cool. Let's hang out.
Let's hang out. Yeah. We're all trying to do the same thing. Let's do it together.
And that was to me like such a God thing. That was such a sign like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and because, Casey and Lainey turned out to be they're my sisters, they're two of my best friends and have been, obviously Lainey's out there killing it right now. And, they have just helped me grow and inspired me in so many ways, helped me grow in my faith. And I never had a lot of close female friends until I moved here. Cause I had people that I loved that were girls I grew up with, but we didn't really have anything in common outside of we grew up together. Sure. And now all of a sudden I've got this circle of females that are just incredible. They're badasses. They're smart. They're talented. They're driven. They're out here doing the same thing. They all moved from their whatever little town in Louisiana, North Carolina, South Carolina, Illinois, wherever. All these girls that they were the me in their small town, just trying to get out and figure out like where they fit. And all of a sudden, like I felt like I belong here.
And you meet them in the first 24 hours you're here.
First day.
Yeah.
The day that I drove there.
It's amazing.
And yeah, and then I think it was like a year later, I met my now husband, and it was just one of those things where everything about moving here, God just kept showing me, this is where you're meant to be. This is where you belong. You're going to put down roots here, and it's going to give you everything you need. It's going to give you inspiration. It's going to give you great relationships. It's going to give you faith. It's going to give you some great hunting, So it was, that's not to say that it was easy.
Yeah.
I mean, it was tough. It was tough making that move, but I mean, in hindsight, I don't think about that as much as I think about how happy I am to be here now and what it's done for me.
So did you leave your label up there?
No, I was still signed with Warner for years.
Yeah.
Until I guess like a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago.
Okay.
I have terrible, it's the concussion. Okay. I've had a lot of concussions. So my memory of like time, sometimes time just kind of like weaves all together for me a little bit.
It happens sometime.
Yeah.
Years back.
Between a month and 3 years ago.
Could be 2 years, could be 7 years. We don't know.
So did you just dive right into writing songs when you got here with anybody and everybody you could?
Yep. I went out a lot, which is kind of what you have to do. I mean, that's how you network, and that's how you meet people. I played a lot of different writers rounds in town, and that's how other writers and other artists see you and get to know you. And
the town was different too.
It was different.
Much different.
It's crazy actually how much has changed. I mean, my husband's born and raised here, so obviously he's seen all of that change. But even for me being here, as long as 7 years full time, and then for a few years even before that, I was here constantly, every month or every other month. But it's definitely changed a lot. And it was, I went out and I partied and I don't know. I'm happy to be alive. We'll just leave it at that.
I think we're all in the same boat.
Yeah. My first year of college was here in 2001.
Dang.
So like downtown, I mean, Mitchell probably gonna attest to, like downtown, it was only the left side, like, Tootsie's and stuff. The right side, there wasn't shit.
And it was like kind of sketchy, right?
It was super sketchy.
Like you don't go down there. It was not woo girl territory.
No,
it was like, don't go down there unless you want to get robbed.
Was it like just titty bars and rundown liquor stores, or
the right side was just kind of like rundown bars. Like they would turn over like every 6 months, 8 months. I mean, Tootsie's, Stage, like all the Roberts,
yeah.
They were all there, but like there was no second floor to any of them. Like Stage was the only one that had that second floor bar up there, but none of them had rooftops. I mean, it was, and I mean, you could catch a cab from Vandy and be down there in 3 minutes. But we never really went down there that much, just because
there's nothing there.
No, I mean, Midtown started popping up with, Jason.
So where did you go out? Where was the spot then?
Jason Shear had just opened up Tin Roof.
Okay, like Demumbrian Tin Roof.
Yep.
Okay.
And then Steve, they had just opened up Losers about the same time. So that was kind of like where we went. And then, if we were feeling crazy, like on a Monday or Tuesday, we'd go down to Stage, like 80s night or something like that. And then you just stay on campus. And Dan McGinnis opened on Demumbrium too. Like Demumbrium, it was more a Demumbrium thing than Tin Roof, Losers, and then back to campus. It just wasn't something downtown until obviously recently.
Was the competition in Nashville very attractive? Is that one of the reasons you moved here?
Oh, definitely. I never, I wouldn't say it as much like competition as I would just inspiration and motivation because, I never wanted to be a big fish in a small pond. I wanted to be, one thing about me is I am going to be the best at everything I do, even if it kills me. I'm very competitive for sure. So I guess it's fair to say competitive. But yeah, I just it was just a whole new world of art and music and people that I had just never really been around. And just I just love people. I love learning about people, how they grew up and, their customs. And it was interesting to see. For sure, there were some definite cultural differences, from how I grew up, but a lot of it was just really the same. I grew up rural, and a lot of the people that I became friends with here, they grew up rural too, just in the South versus in Canada. And they, I think, were shocked to learn how similarly I grew up to them. I'm like, they're like, so people like country music in Canada? I'm like, well, yeah. Like, hell yeah, we do. I was like, there's a huge audience for country music.
Like 3/4 of the country is just rural.
It is. I'm like, do you know how much
there's not shit in the
nothing
middle.
there is in Canada? I'm like, but that was another big part of it too for me was the touring aspect. I mean, Canada is tough to tour. It's really tough to tour without a bus, and if it's wintertime.
Well, there's not much in the middle of the country, right?
Well, everything there
so
are
away.
great country fans, but everything's so spread out. The biggest markets, they're really spread out, and it's like if you've got to drive 10, 12 hours on a show day with a van and a trailer, like you don't sleep. So it's hard to tour, and because, as big as it is, excuse me, there's so much fewer markets. I mean, you can only really do a successful ticketed tour in Canada probably every other year. Yeah. And you have to coordinate that with the festivals that you do in those certain areas because of radius clauses, all that kind of stuff. Whereas like you come down here, I mean, you could go tour Texas alone. Yeah. 365 days of the year and never run out of places to play.
Randy Rogers.
And there are tons of artists that you can speak to that. And so that was a big pull for me because I love performing. I love being on the road. I love touring, and that will always be a huge part of my career. And I just wanted the opportunity to be able to do it whenever I wanted, as much as I wanted, and I didn't feel that I could do that in Canada.
Sure. So whenever you got here, were you writing songs for other people to cut? Were you trying to write that that was the goal?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of both. I mean, I was definitely
writing for yourself, probably too.
Yeah, my main focus was writing for myself as an artist, obviously, but I've always seen myself as just a songwriter as well. I write for, and I write outside of country music too. I have cuts in rock music. I had a cut with 3 Days Grace and
free money.
Some newer, I mean, I just like as you've learned, I've loved so many styles of music, and I've kind of dabbled in so many genres of music. I just love music, and I love creating, and I love writing, and so sometimes I specifically like seek out trying to write outside of country because I just need to I just need to do something else, and just be creative in a different way. And also because sometimes I get tired of writing songs for myself because I'm tired of talking about me and my story and how sometimes I want to get in someone else's head and write something that they would want to sing. And I've been lucky to have some cuts within country music as well. In Canada, like I would say one of my like big milestone moments in my career, I had a song that got cut by Terry Clark and Gord Bamford, and Terry is like a freaking icon, and she's amazing. So I mean, for sure, like, I mean, I'll be writing songs. It's not even something I can turn off. Yeah, like I will be writing songs till my brain stops working, which based on the amount of concussions I have, it could be sooner than later. But I don't know. I promise you, I used to be way smarter. Me too. I know you relate.
My wife, she said numerous times, she's like, I'm just going to put you and Jay in the same nursing home so you can wake up every morning and meet each other, become friends, have a couple beers, talk about life, then fall asleep and forget who each other are again the next day.
When CTE really kicks in, just going to put us like roommates. Man. Hey, buddy. Okay. I'm Sam. Nice to meet you.
What are you doing? You want to have a cocktail? Check out this deer I killed. Let me tell you a story.
You guys could just tell each other your favorite hunting stories every day, over and over. Isn't that all of our dreams? Oh, just be able to tell our hunting stories like it's new every day.
Are you going to finish those mashed potatoes?
Trade you for your Jell-O.
So I'm curious, what does a songwriting session look like when singer and songwriters get together? You know, what do you bring to the table and what I mean by that, not you personally, like, bourbon. Do you bring, besides a cooler,
bourbon and Grizzly Straight,
a bunch of songs that you dip?
Yeah.
Really?
I'm trying to get through this water so I can use that as a spitter.
I'll chug mine. You can use it. How long have you dipped?
That was definitely a habit I picked up when I moved here, for sure. I mean, I was always around it. I grew up around a ton of hockey players, but I was actually in a right with my friend Jacob Powell, and he was dipping, and I was just, oh, thank you. And I was like, let me have some of that. And he was like, I don't know. He's like, it might like make you sick. And
long cut?
It was long cut. It was Grizzly Wintergreen.
Okay. The only bear you can pinch.
And I was like, yeah. And he's like, I was like, I just want. I'm like, just want to see what it's about.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay. And we had gone and had lunch and had a few cocktails as well at lunch.
Yeah.
A couple beers. And we were both fighting a hangover.
Okay.
And so I took a pinch and, and I'm just sitting there the whole time. He's like, you good? I was like, yeah.
Thriving.
My head was definitely doing one of these, but I wasn't going to tell him that. I was going to pass out on that floor before I told him it was affecting me any type of way. And unfortunately, I really liked it. And now here we are.
Still doing it.
I dipped for.
Although I actually hate wintergreen. I switched to the straight, and that's what I've always been on ever since. But I'm on pouches now. I got off the long cut, and I mean honestly, I look at it like this. I'm someone who is like hyper aware of. I've come from some addiction in my family and stuff, and I've been around it a lot. So I'm hyper aware of anything kind of having a hold on me. So I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and act like it's good for me. It's obviously not a great habit, but I mean, I can go a week without it.
You take breaks.
I don't like wake up in the morning and throw a pinch in. It's more of a situational thing for me. Definitely, if I'm having drinks, I'm definitely going to be dipping.
Yep.
When I'm hunting, it's a keep me awake, give me something to do thing. Or if I'm driving like a long distance, same thing. It's just it keeps me alert, so it's a safety issue, really.
Yeah.
When it comes to driving,
I mean, it's a must.
It's necessary.
I just used to reload on road trips. One goes out the window, another one goes right in the lip.
I know. And then I try and get some sunflower seeds, so I at least because I would get through. I mean, I'm on the road a lot, and because I'm a control freak, I will drive the whole way because I trust none of you to get us there safely. Only I can do it. And so that's a lot of driving, and so I try to split it up at least, so I'm half a little bit on the sunflower seeds instead of dipping the whole time.
First time I dipped was it was after my freshman year in high school, and I was on a legion baseball team with a bunch of older guys, and I couldn't drive yet. And we played all over Indiana, into Kentucky, Ohio, and we played like a Saturday doubleheader or something. And we're driving home in one of the guys' mom's minivans, and they're all like dipping and stuff, and they're like, "Hey, try this out." And my dad dipped forever, so he would always
Where did he dip?
Skull long cut straight, and he would always leave like his cans and stuff all over the house, and So I had drank dip spit more times than I could count. So I hated the shit. Yeah. But we're in a car full of baseball boys and a peer pressure. So I'm like, fuck it, let's do it. It was Red Man.
You mix it with bubble gum?
Huh?
Mix any spearmint bubble gum in there?
That's what they would do during games. Yeah. They would wrap bubble gum around it. But I mean, I just threw it in. We had just stopped like at Hardee's or some shit, and we're driving, and it hit me like a fucking train.
You puke?
Oh my gosh! you know the trough there, like where the minivan door is.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, just filled that bastard up.
Oh god.
I dipped for about 18 years, I think.
Really?
And then I went on deployment and didn't bring any on purpose. I'm like, because typically I would just go into every store on Shore Drive in Virginia Beach.
You just really, you are a glutton for punishment. Yeah. I'm like, I'm going to just go risk my life and make myself quit this addiction.
You didn't make it very long. There's no way. Did you make it a whole deployment?
Yeah, without dipping.
Really?
Yeah, wow. I was smoking every cigarette I could get my fucking hands on.
I mean,
but did I dip? No.
Yeah, well,
because I went through that early
1,000 heaters.
Yeah, oh yeah, I went through that early on. I'm like, yeah, Katie, I'm gonna quit dipping.
Yeah.
And then she walks out front. I was outside the garage smoking a cigarette. She's like, that's not how this works. And but then I got home from that deployment and switched over to Zens. I've been on those since.
Yeah, I just feel like for me,
I think I need a sponsorship.
It's like if I've done the Zens, but I'm like, I just don't enjoy it as much as the dip, and I'm like, well, it's still not like good for me. So if I'm gonna do it, I'm just gonna do what I want. And when I quit, I quit.
Exactly.
Well, I said I already told myself that when I get obviously I will quit when I get pregnant, but that'll be it. And so this is my last hurrah until Mitch puts a baby in me.
How did you guys meet?
We met at Losers, actually.
Okay. There's been a lot of love connections at Losers.
Yeah, it's also where we got engaged because
made sense.
So a friend of mine was called me. I was in a tree stand, actually. I was out in Goodlettsville hunting, and my friend called me, texted me, and was like, "Hey, I'm going on this date, like this blind date with this guy tonight, and I just kind of like I don't want to show up by myself. Will you be my wingman?"
Okay.
And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." I'm like, I'm 45 minutes out of town. I got to go home and shower and change. Like I'm in full camo, and I have dopey on my person. And she's like, no. She's like, there's not enough time. I got to go meet him at this time. She's like, just show up. Who cares? Just like wear your camo. Like nobody cares. And at the time I honestly was just like kind of specifically trying to not date anybody too. So I really was like, I don't need to look cute to go to Losers right now.
I'm a wingman anyway. Who cares?
I'm a wingman. I didn't want to go out. I was just literally going there to make sure that this dude was not a weirdo, wasn't going to like make a lampshade out of her skin or something and then get out of there. So I go, she meets the guy, she, gives me the thumbs up to go, and I'm about to leave when all of a sudden I turn around. I'm right by where the door is to the back room.
Okay.
And I turn around and I see my friend Dallas Wilson with his shirt over his head and half of his chest is shaved. And I was like, that's weird. And he puts his shirt down. I was like, hey, bud, like, what are you doing? And so we started talking, and he's like, oh, come, you got to come hang. We're hanging out for my buddy's birthday, and he's kind of introducing me to people. And he gets to Mitchell, and he's like, wait, y'all don't know each other? And Mitchell was like, no. And he immediately turns on his little Mitchell charm, was like, hey, how you doing? And I immediately was like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And so we talked for a little bit that night. I was just very not interested. And I think it was like a couple weeks later, I ran into him again at Losers, and he walks up to me, and I'm going to tell the whole story. He might get mad, but I don't care. It's so good. He walks up to me, he goes, hey, Miss Female Artist of the Year. And I was like, what? I had just won in Canada at the CCMA. And he's like, that's right. I creeped your Instagram. I was hard as a kneecap. And I looked at him.
I've never heard that line, but I'm definitely using it.
I mean, I was taken aback because I was like, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good line. But I didn't know him really. So I was like, are you a creep? Are you just really funny? Like,
Maybe a little
bit of both. Know. Yeah, maybe a little bit of both. I don't
Two
know.
ways here.
I didn't really know how to handle it, but he was funny. And I was like, okay, whatever. Still like not, and I was just being very whatever. The third time we hung out was the charm, in fact, because
wait, so after Hard as a Kneecap, how was this left? Did you guys have each other's numbers?
I don't know.
Okay.
No, we
so
did
this
not.
is just chance meetings.
He was just talking, and I kind of I don't remember. I exited the conversation somehow.
Sure.
I was meeting friends, so I was just kind of like, I'll see you later.
Gotcha.
And so the third time I met him, my buddy Jared had texted me to go play darts, and Mitchell's one of his best friends and producer Jordan showed up, and he texts Mitchell. He's like, hey, Camo Girl's here. You should come hang out. And so he showed up, and I think it was the fact that we were completely sober, but also the fact that I had kind of blown him off a couple of times. He just wasn't maybe trying as hard, and so he was kind of just being himself. And then I was like, oh, this guy's kind of funny, whatever. So yeah, we started talking, and that was kind of where things all started. And then I left to go on tour for like a month in Canada, and that was also why I was like, I'm not trying to get involved with some guy that's just gonna like ghost me a week after I leave, and then I'm going to be on the road thinking about this when I need to be thinking about work, And so that's fully what I expected to happen, but we talked like every day and really built this whole relationship kind of long distance while I was on the road. And I remember
It kind of takes the pressure off. You get to know each other a little bit without having to be face to face.
Well, and it also showed me his intention too. That like he wasn't getting any. You know what I mean? Like I was just some girl in Canada that he decided he wanted to call every night. And I remember when I came the weekend that I got back, it was like Super Bowl weekend, and he was like having people over to his house to watch the game, and I was kind of nervous. I'm like, is this going to be weird? Like we've kind of created this whole relationship without actually having hung out that much, and it wasn't. It was awesome, and the rest is history. It just kept working, and I think it was like, I mean, and Mitchell, he didn't have his record deal when I met him. Yeah. He signed his record deal like right when we first started dating. And so a lot changed for both of us in our lives. And I think the fact that neither one of us was really trying to force it to be a thing. We were actually kind of kept both waiting for it to no longer be a thing, because we both made it clear, like, I'm very focused on my career right now. And if you are going to get in the way of that, and if you're going to push me to choose, like, and I've said that verbatim, like, if you ask me to choose you, I will not choose you.
Yeah, picking music.
I am so sorry. But we were both on the same page. And so we just kept choosing each other because it worked. There was no pressure from each other. Just kind of like, hey, I want the best for you. I get it. I understand what you're up against right now, and like, go out and get it. And I had never.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys are kind of in the same track of like,
absolutely.
Let's build this. But
yeah,
you liked each other enough that it's like, well, we don't really have to just break up. We can just keep doing what we're doing.
Doing what we're doing. Yeah, like it just kept working, and I think, like I said, there was just no pressure from the other to have these expectations of what a normal relationship looks like. We figured out quickly, like, oh, we can just do whatever works for us. Like,
kind of in the same place in life too.
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, that was the first relationship I had where I truly felt seen and understood for my career and not judged for it. I didn't feel like I was a bad girlfriend because I would choose my career. I didn't feel like I was a bad girlfriend because I had to go be on the road and with a bunch of dudes, you know, and he had that trust in me, and I had that trust in him. Like, we just understood each other, and we were on the same track. We had the same goals in our own life, and it just kept working. That's not to say that it's not hard sometimes. It's not a challenge, but I think it was so necessary for both of us being as ambitious and as focused as we are on our careers, as passionate as we are about our careers. We both needed to find somebody who was never going to make us feel guilty about that. Yeah. And that really was like created such a strong foundation of trust and understanding for each other.
You guys found each other at the right time where you guys could grow together and see, you know, each other get, you know, more famous and you know, bigger gigs and sometimes
it's I would say the toughest thing is that, like, every career is peaks and valleys, and sometimes he's up here and I'm down here, and sometimes, you know, and so we've had to learn how to navigate, like, when one of us comes home with great news,
and the other
one of us comes home with bad news, and learning how to have like grace and empathy for the one who's struggling while also being on top, you know, and being the one that's struggling and making sure that you let that person know, I'm so freaking proud of you and you're killing it. I know I don't have it yet right now, but I'm proud of you. And understanding that we're a team, and, you know, we elevate each other and we help each other.
Is there jealousy that goes on? It's just an interesting, you know, relationship dynamic.
I mean, honestly, you know? I mean, I feel that I can speak for him just because he has never done or said anything at all that's led me to believe that he's anything but my biggest cheerleader. Because at the end of the day, I mean, he just wants to see me happy, because when I'm happy, he's happy. Our relationship, when we're both happy, our relationship is great. And so that's what we want to see happen. And I think we're both secure enough in our talent and our skill set and what we do as individual artists that, like, he's never been threatened by that. And also, Mitchell has been raised by very strong women. I mean, his grandmother was Donna Hilley. She ran Sony ATV. She was like an icon, you know, a massive female icon in Nashville when women were not running things. And so he grew up being inspired by and looking up to a powerful, talented, incredible woman. His manager is a woman. You know, Mitchell is surrounded by powerful women. He is not threatened by that. He is empowered and inspired by that. And, you know, I think that's important to us, is that we just both inspire each other to be better. And, you know, and I think we're slightly different in how we approach things, in that because Mitchell grew up here and also, you know, studied music business and stuff, he's an incredible businessman, very smart, great intuition. You know, he's just got a really good hold on the business side of things. I'm a little more, that's kind of a necessary evil I have to deal with in order to do the art. You know, and Mitchell is still very much an artist. He's very much an artist. He just is really good at the business stuff. And I think we bring out the best in each other, in that I inspire him to not think of everything so business minded all the time, and know that sometimes there's a place for just art and taking a chance and doing something out of passion and not out of a business choice. Whereas he's like, for me, he's like, hey, that's a great idea, but here's how you could maybe be a little more intentional about how you do this business wise. And here's how you can work your way through this. And here's how you can, help everybody around you get done what needs to get done. So we have a really good relationship in that way.
Do you guys spend a lot of time apart right now?
Yes.
How much out of the year would you, if you had to put
a lot? I was told there'd be no math, but I mean, to put it in perspective, we are generally gone for sure, probably like either Wednesday or Thursday through Sunday.
Wow.
Most weeks, especially in the summer. We both have a lot of touring right now. He's been kind of in the rehearsals, getting ready for tour phase, where I've already been out on the road with some earlier touring, and then I'm gonna and then he starts kicking off. He's out with Luke Combs. He's out with Jordan Davis this year, so he's gonna have a super full schedule. Sometimes things line up where we get to play stuff together, which is great. We're with the same booking agency, so I think we try and coordinate anytime we can, and the fans love it too because they love to see us. If I get to go out with Mitchell or whatever, he'll bring me out on stage and we'll do something together. So we try and coordinate that as best as we can. But again, it's an understanding that this is just what we have to do to create the life we want to have. And honestly, our whole relationship has been that. Like we're used to being away from each other, and we have an incredible foundation of trust. I don't worry about what he's doing out there, and he doesn't worry. I know what he's doing out there. He's playing video games with his boys and like smoking and going to bed, and that's it. And probably chasing Pokemon or something and buying sneakers. That's what Mitchell does on the road. And so when you have that trust there, that doesn't make it easier. We miss each other, and it's hard, and it's tough. Trying to navigate. Okay, how much do we sacrifice?
Yeah.
But I think we're good at always finding our way back to each other and making sure that we're there for the important stuff.
How's the transition when you're home and then he comes into the house and kind of breaks up your routine a little bit?
I mean, honestly, it doesn't. We're good.
Really?
Like I'll say this. I do enjoy sometimes if I have a weekend alone to just do whatever. It's great, but like we don't really get in each other's way much. We kind of have our own spaces in the house, and especially now we're in a new place. There's 10 acres of land, and I'll probably just be out there.
Yeah. The reason I asked that question, I would be on trips, some shorter, some longer than others, and come home and, my wife, she has a way she does everything, where I'd be loading the dishwasher, putting the kids to bed, and I come in and just throw a wrecking ball in the whole routine. And
I will say, I think when kids are involved, that'll probably change things a lot, and that'll be a whole other thing we have to navigate. But to be honest, most of the time now, we're kind of on the same schedule. We're kind of doing the same thing. Sometimes it's tough if I'm not on the road and he's on the road, I get into bed early and I get up super early to go work out or whatever. So like sometimes it's tough because he's on road time where he's not going to be able to sleep before midnight or 1 or 2, and I'm trying to be in bed at 10 to get up at 6 or 5:30. So that's tough sometimes, but we figure it out.
One thing we're learning now, Katie and I, is since I retired, is learning how to be around each other all the time. Like, hey, you're not leaving for 6 months. You're not in, because she's a very independent, strong woman, like yourself. And it's just new territory. Navigating that together is very interesting because I've been gone for the last 20 years, essentially.
She's been used to that being a lot of alone time.
And she likes her alone time.
And having to do everything herself with the kids. And now all of a sudden,
she's got a
your
whole
big
system.
ass is there.
Bumping
into things.
Very unpredictable.
Definitely loading the dishwasher incorrectly, I'm sure.
100%.
No, it's
So you guys want kids, obviously?
Yes, we definitely do.
Actively trying and practicing?
Yes. Yeah, we've pulled the goalie. It's just, but that is one of the tougher parts of it is we're just not always physically together when we need to be trying. So, but
it'll happen.
I believe it'll happen when it's meant to. And, we also we have so much to be grateful for right now. And I'm trying to get better about just living and being happy in whatever season I'm in. Because there will come a time where, yes, there is a part of me that really, really wants a baby for sure. But there will come a time.
Wait till that thing's 6 months old. It's not sleeping. And you're just like,
I know that time is coming. And so
how many do you want?
I honestly think we would probably definitely cap it at 2.
Okay.
just for like
3 is an easy transition. 2 to 3.
I don't know, man.
One to 2 is harder than 2 to 3.
Yeah.
1 to 2 is harder than 2 to 3
because 1, like you can be like, all right, you watch it or I'll watch it. I'll do my thing. 2, now it's like man to man. It's like no one's free.
Yeah.
And then the third one is just like whatever. It's just another mouth.
Go with
Who
one or the
cares?
other. Yeah.
We're outnumbered anyway.
I don't know. We'll see what happens. I mean, there's been times where like maybe we would only have the one. Maybe we'd only even have the opportunity to have one. And if that's how it works out, we'll make that work. But we both grew up with siblings, and like, ideally, I would like for our kid to have a sibling because like he's super close with his brother. I'm very close with my sister. I mean, his brother is his bass player. He's out on the road with him. So, ideally we'd like to have 2. We've talked like, if we got 2 girls or 2 boys, would we try for a third? But listen, I grew up with one of my friends I grew up with. This woman, all she wanted was a girl, and she ended up with 5 boys. And the last time she tried, she got twin boys.
Oh gosh. See, Sam's got 3 girls. 3 girls. I keep telling him, just try for a 4. See what happens here.
That's what's going to happen.
It will be another girl, and she'll
I'm
be
going
a
to have twin girls.
Yeah.
Go from 3 to 5.
Yeah, honestly, at this point, I'm like, let's just get 2 birds stoned. Just put twins in me, and we'll just get 2, like a 2 for 1.
Just knock this out.
Just knock it out. Efficiency,
So go ahead.
I was watching a video, and you were in a room, and you said, "This is the first buck that I've killed." That's a good buck for a first buck.
I've never beat it since.
Really?
That is what this tattoo is right here. This is like the hook brow tine and everything, and that's the coordinates I shot him back home. Wow. So my friend Matt that I had mentioned that I snowboarded with, who went on to go to 2 Olympics, is like one of the most incredible athletes I've ever known. His parents had 30 acres close to where I grew up, and I was really close with his mom. She boarded my horse. And so we'd be out there on the horses, and they had never given anyone permission to hunt that land. But we hunted all around there, and one day we were out there, and she said, if you wanted to come out here and hunt, I'd let you, because I know you'd be mindful of the horses and everything. And and I was like, I mean, yeah, for sure. And I underestimated how great that land was at the time. I was still pretty green. This was only, I want to say this is only my 2nd year of deer hunting at this point. So the year before I had gone out, no luck. And so, but I was like, I'm getting my own land. I'm putting out cameras. I'm putting up stands. Like I'm not just waiting for the boys to set me down somewhere and hope for the best.
You're going to do it.
I'm taking matters into my own hands. Okay. And so I got that land, and then I got permission on another piece of land that was like 150 acres. I went out there, and it was like a highway of deer tracks. So I was like, oh, this is the spot, right? And I kind of underestimated this other spot because it was a smaller piece of land. It was closer to town. And I mean, we were always going through there. But when we went through there, it was almost always on a horse, not on foot. So I put all this time into this other piece of land. And I went out there the first 3 days. We would all take the week off, first week of the gun hunt. We had a hunt club. We were called the Goat Yard Hunt Club. And it was all my buddies that I grew up with, and I went and sat the first 3 days of the hunt. 2 of those days, I did a full day sit.
Wow!
Like packed a lunch and sat there.
I can appreciate that.
I did not.
I mean, are we climbing? Are you in a stand?
I was in a stand.
Are you climbing down to pee? Are we peeing from the stands? What's the issue here?
Yeah, I mean, well, I wasn't. It's not as easy to just hang your butt off the side of a stand to do it as a female.
That's what I make Samantha do. I'm like, we're not climbing down. Like just
pee off the edge.
Just pee off the edge. Figure it out.
I respect it. I mean, I'm not saying I haven't done it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you're doing a full day sit, you're gonna get up and stretch your legs at some point. But I did not see anything.
Is this gun?
This is gun. Yeah. I saw nothing. And I started realizing, I'm looking at the cameras, I realized they had switched it up and they were only coming through there at night.
At night, yeah.
So.
You can't bait up there, can you?
No.
Okay.
What type of gun?
So we had to shoot shotguns with a slug at this at where we were. And so finally I said, my boyfriend at the time, he was like, well, let's go over to the Morrisons, So I took him out there, and the first morning he shoots a buck on this land that nobody had gotten permission but me. But I was stoked for him. I go to meet up with him. We're trying to track this deer. I mean, there was blood trail. Everything suggests that he's been hunting his whole life. He's a great shot. Yeah. I think maybe coyotes got him or something. We never ended up finding that deer, and he was like heartbroken. He'd never lost a deer before. But as we were leaving that day, there was this other property, and the guys were coming back, and there was a 12-point drop tine on this land, and they saw him as they were like leaving the stand to come back and have breakfast. And so of course everyone wants to go out there for the evening. And this is the last day of the hunt, and I remember I was kind of pissed because I wanted to go there, obviously, too. But I was like, well, we can't have like 10 of us over there. So I was like, well, I guess I'll go back to, Morrison's, where I was not really that stoked to be. There's blood trail everywhere. We had dogs through there the day before looking for this deer. But I was like, whatever, I'm kind of the new kid in town at the hunt camp.
Take one for the team
so
here.
I'll take one for the team.
Yeah.
And did I ever? So I went, and here's the other thing. I never even put up a stand or anything at Morrison. So I go over there, and I literally just found myself a stump.
Yeah.
And I sat down on the ground with my back against the stump. And I'm sitting there, and it's probably about maybe 20 minutes till sunset, and I haven't seen anything. I'm like, well, another year.
Yeah.
All this work and nothing. And I hear like a twig snap behind me. And I'm like, I slowly look over. It's another squirrel, and I look over. And I just see this rat come up.
Yeah.
And my heart stopped. I might have blacked out for a second. It was the biggest deer
That's what
I
happens
had.
to Sam, too.
Every time I lose my mind.
It was the biggest deer I'd ever seen in my life. And of course, he came up from so everything in front of me suggests that he will come in front of me.
Of course.
Everything. There's soybeans, there's a cornfield over here, there's a creek over here, there's all this stuff. What's behind me? The house.
Yep. Just comes.
But he comes. But you know what? He came on. I put Dopey on my boots, and he was tracking that all the way in. So he was following where I'd walked in.
Yep.
And so now I'm trying to figure out how the heck am I going to get completely turned around with my gun without him hearing me, seeing me, smelling me. The wind's not exactly in my favor either. And it was the slowest moment of my life of me just doing
trying to get turned.
This. And I get up and I'm like, and I pull up and he's standing there and he's kind of like slightly obscured by these two like young evergreens. And I'm like, in my head, I'm hearing all the boys, everything they told me. They're like, be patient, wait till you have a clear shooting lane. Wait till he's broadside, shoot him here, all the things. I'm trying to remember it all. But it was really just his front and his back. I kind of had a lane to the bread basket. And
you're on the ground too.
And I'm on the ground.
Which is shitty.
And he was not far. I would say he was probably 40, 50 yards.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he pulls his head up real quick and I was like, I can't wait.
Yeah. Now or never here.
So I take the shot. He bucks and he starts running and I stand up and I just unload my gun. Because I was like, I am not letting this guy get away. He runs off. He ran probably about 80 yards and he stops for a second at this big tree and then keeps running. And so I immediately call him. I'm like, I think I shot him. You gotta get over here. And I'm like, I'm shaking. I'm freaking out. It's starting to it's almost dark. It's like about to get dark here in a minute. And they're like, all right, wait a little bit, and then get up, go look for blood. We'll get there as soon as we can. So I wait what feels like a week. Yeah. And I get up and I'm looking and I go to where I thought I had shot him, and I couldn't find blood anywhere. But it's leaves everywhere. It's getting dark. And I'm thinking, I missed. Yep. Like I missed the biggest buck I've ever seen in my life. So I'm like, you know what? I remember exactly where that tree was, where he stopped. And if I got him, there's got to be blood there.
Absolutely.
So I just start walking out to that tree. And right before I get to the tree, I look over and there on the right, there he is. Dead. On the ground. The rack is like, it was majestic. And I don't even know what I did. I definitely screamed. And then I went over there and then all of a sudden I remembered they're like, before you get down there and grab him, give him the poke. Yeah. And so I poke him and I don't know, it was like something, a little bubble or something, little whatever. It kind of made this little noise.
It still scares the shit out of me.
Oh yeah. If he got up, he could have killed me. This is a big old boy. And I was like, okay, he's dead. And so then I'm sitting there and I take a selfie and I'm like, what do I do with myself? And so I'm sitting there, I'm pacing. I'm like, I just need to start dragging this guy out. Yeah. So I just grab him by the horns and I just just start pulling him out. The guys finally get there. And in my head, I'm like, okay, either they're going to walk up and they're going to be like, oh, nice deer, Megan. Or they're going to be like, holy shit.
Yeah.
They got there and they were like, holy shit. And that's when I knew. I was like, okay, I did it. I did it. And they're asking me, I'm telling the story. And they're like, well, wait, if what do you mean you didn't see him drop? He's right. If you were sitting right there, you didn't see him. I was like, well, no, this isn't where he dropped. And they're like, you moved him? I was like, I could lift a Chevy right now. I don't know if you understand the amount of sheer adrenaline. Like they talk about like mothers lifting vehicles off their children. Like that was me at that point.
That's amazing.
And so I told him, I was like, don't tell the other guys. Don't tell them anything. Let's just go back to camp.
Bring him.
So we get him loaded up in the back of the truck. We get back to camp and all the other guys were like, well, and I was like, man, we'll get him next year. I know we're going to get him next year. And I was like, hey, Russ, I'm like, I threw some beer in the back. Will you grab that case of beer out of the back of my truck? And he pops down the tailgate and he's like, oh my God. And then I proceeded to have one of the drunkest nights of my life.
There you go.
That'll happen.
They taught me, showed me how to clean it and gut it and everything. He made me eat the heart. He's like, this is something you have to do, which actually turns out to be one of my favorite things to eat, actually, when cooked well.
Yep.
Likewise.
Yeah,
Full of vitamins and iron and good stuff.
I'll tell you a good way to do heart. I learned it in when I was not seeing moose in Maine. Soak it for like a day. You can soak it in water, you can soak it in milk, I don't care what you soak it in. And then put it in a crock pot.
Okay. Slow cook it.
Okay. And then with onions, peppers, whatever you like in it, garlic, and then cut it up into slices and then grill it.
Ooh, okay. I've never grilled it.
But it's slow cook it first and then grill it, and it's phenomenal. Okay. We did that at Elkhart. I think that's maybe in San.
No, I think I was there.
Yeah,
in Montana.
Yeah. It's because it can get a little spongy on you if you don't do it right. But
we did the way we did it that night. We kind of parboiled it, like boiled it a little bit, and then sliced it up really thin. And then I just cooked it with like butter, onions, garlic, salt, pepper, and a little bit of beer.
Yep.
It's really good that way too. But I've never grilled it.
It's good.
Do you still get buck fever?
Oh yeah, so I got into bow hunting after I moved to Nashville.
That's a different animal.
It is yes. So I have yet to have a successful bow hunt yet. I mean, I haven't put in enough time to really be that mad about it yet. But I did have a moment a couple seasons ago where it was a pretty decent size 8-point. I mean, it was a shooter, especially with a bow.
Yep.
But it was just one of those things where he kept coming in on the tree line, but straight at me. And by the time he turned broadside, I had like a split second to make a decision about whether I had a clear enough shot, and I didn't think I did. And so I let him go, and that has haunted me for the rest of my life of replaying that moment in my mind on loop of like, should I have taken the shot? But for me, I look at it like this: if you're not 100%, you don't take the shot, because the only thing worse than having to play that moment in my head for the rest of my life is shooting a deer, injuring it, losing it, whatever. It's not worth it. But
we've had some of that in Kentucky the last couple of years. It's not ideal. But if you need free time this fall, you need to come up because you guys are up in Pegram now. Like my place is just north of Hopkinsville.
I mean, say less. Just tell me when. I will be there.
I'm literally looking for shooters all fall long.
Okay, well,
because we've got about
I'll be there.
I don't know, $30 that were $30 probably on the shooter list last year, and we'll see.
Let's get that first bow kill.
Absolutely. Well, it opens. It's in Velvet up there. Then
okay,
it opens first week in September.
Okay, well, I'll be there.
I hope to God that you are, because we need shooters. And Sam,
I missed last year opening day. The year before I got it done, but then it was the first time I ever had a deer jump an arrow. I was at full draw, and I waited because he walked in and it's very distinct deer, very old, mature, and he's messing around with another deer, and there's like 5 does under me, and the does kind of get off to my right a little bit, and their heads are down. Then he turns broadside, but I have to wait for the younger buck behind him to get out of the way. And because they were he was right in front of the other one. And then finally that happens, and I draw, and I get on him, or as I'm drawing, I get on him, and one of those does spooked him. So he looks at me right as I draw him. And so I just kind of put a pin on him, boom, let it fly. And as soon as I pull the trigger, he starts moving and I miss it.
Yeah, that's...
I shot my buck. It was muzzleloader. The year before, I chased the buck for 2 years, and I probably sat 40 times. Ended up getting him in November. It was like 80 degrees at 4 o'clock. No idea why he was even out. I was watching Netflix in a blind. So bored.
Been there.
This last year, didn't hunt as much, but it was muzzleloader, and I had some time, so I ran up there. And it was still warm, too. And took the Ranger out, parked probably too close, walking in, and it was in a ladder stand. I'm going up the ladder, and muzzleloader wasn't loaded yet. And I look off to the right, like 80 yards, and I see antlers, and it's heads down. I'm like, shit. So I text Luke. I'm like, I think we got a dead deer. I'll check it out when I'm done. So I get up there. I'm texting the kids. I'm loading the muzzleloader. I'm not quiet by any means.
Yeah, yeah.
And I look back over, and it's heads up. And I'm like, what? I literally walked 40 yards down a road. It's here. There's a road, stands there. I take my binoculars out, and he's just looking right at me. And it's the target buck that I was looking for. He's one of our oldest. He was 6 or 7. And I'm like, I guess I'm just gonna shoot him.
Yeah, I guess this is what I'm supposed to do now.
So I put the little arm thing down, lean out, and he's facing away from me. So I just sent it right up his back, and he just didn't move. Just died right there. Got down from the stand. I was like, okay,
there we go.
I guess we're done here.
Well,
I don't have that luck.
I hunted several full days and didn't even see anything. But hey, sometimes but like you said, that's deer hunting.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know.
All right, so on tour now. I just pulled it up. MeghanPatrickMusic.com. This weekend, Arkansas, Texas, Florida. Back to Canada. So check that out online. Instagram.
Yep, Meg Patrick Music.
Are you on TikTok too?
Yes. Not by choice. I'm just kidding.
Someone else's
My manager's
choice?
laughing over there because it took a lot for me to do it. But my whole thing was just like, if you think I'm going to put on a crop top and do some dance,
I'd pay to see that.
It'll never happen. But she was like, that's fine. She's like, we'll figure out a way to make content that doesn't make you hate yourself.
Yeah.
And so it's, it's kind of a necessary evil. If I could get to a point where I didn't have to have social media at all, but it's just, it's part of our industry now. You have to have it.
It's marketing now.
It's marketing. It's how you stay connected with the fans, which I do love. At the end of the day, I'd always rather just talk to you in a meet and greet line or, at the show, but that's how you get people out. And especially, coming from Canada and trying to basically start from square one of building a career here, you got to use whatever tools are at your disposal.
Absolutely.
And it's definitely helped broaden my reach and my audience. So I can't hate on it too much, but I will still complain about it.
Oh, I complain about it all the time. I get it.
So I heard you smoke cigars. So we got a little gift before you take off. And right down to your right there, I got some drinkware for you.
Oh.
And but I wanted you to take a couple of these for the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do we got here?
Let me see those. Let me see one. Let me go those.
So Jay could tell you about the cigars.
Yeah. So a few years ago, we kind of wanted to make it. I got into cigar smoking when I was down and playing for the Dolphins for a hot second.
Boo.
And I'd gotten into cigars when I was in Denver, but then started smoking them more down there because there's just more cigar bars.
Yeah.
And so once we started this company, went down to Dominican and met up with a cigar roller down there. And long story short, his dad had a bunch of tobacco fields down there, so he had like some select tobacco. He only makes a handful each year, but Connecticut wrapper, and then the rest of it's pretty much from the DR. So try them out whenever at some point. Let me know.
Oh yeah, my manager Randy that's our thing. We love our little cigar nights.
Nice.
Perfect. Well, we appreciate you. Thank you for coming on so much.
I
We appreciate your
you
time.
guys having me.
MeghanPatrickMusic.com. Check out her tour on Instagram, also on TikTok. She's on the road now, touring around, so check her out. And thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Me. Us.
And-
Why did I say that?
if you wanna hunt and you're bored this fall, you guys are a short trip away. You're more than welcome up there.
I won't
anytime.
be bored, but I will want to hunt.
Oh,
One thing about me, everybody on my team knows I will be making time to turkey hunt. I will be making time to duck hunt, and I will be making time to deer hunt. So.
We need to kill 30 or 40 does, so you can get one buck and kill as many does as you want up there.
I got a freezer to fill, so
I got you.
Put me in, coach.
Will do.
Perfect.
All right.
Oh yeah.
That's a wrap.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.